Good morning, guys. I am Steve with Slurv. It is Wednesday, May 11th, and we've got a split slate with an early and a late today. So I'm actually doing it a little bit differently. I'm going to do this video for the early slate, and then later on, when we know a little bit more about weather and Vegas lines and stuff, I will be doing the late slate one. If you're playing all day on FanDuel, don't play all day on FanDuel, especially not in cash. No late swap is a killer for that. Anyway, so our pitching options for today, your cash game cornerstones. We got Mad Bum pitching. That's always a good thing, but he is very expensive, and he is taking on Toronto. They've been pretty cold, but their bats came to life a little bit yesterday. But they still only put up like 4 runs. Against a pitcher much worse than than Mad Bum. Sorry, I'm a little sleepy early in the morning. But 12.4 on DK is really expensive. 11.2 on FanDuel, pretty pricey too. Still like him as a nice safe play. And there's a couple of guys in kind of the mid-high range that I like today. We'll start with Taijuan Walker. Gets the Rays. He is 9.7 on DK and only 9.0 on FanDuel. He's kind of a higher upside guy. He did get shelled a little bit in his last start, so there is that risk there. But he's a guy. If you're playing 50-50s or double ups, I might shy away from Taijuan for a safer option, but the upside he provides is good for head-to-heads as either a second pitcher to Mad Bum or just your sole guy either on your sole guy on FanDuel or your number one with somebody else on DK. Somebody else potentially like Kyle Hendricks gets the Padres, always a nice matchup. I don't feel like he has a whole lot of upside. He hasn't been striking out a whole lot of guys this year. The Padres do strike out a lot, so that's definitely a consideration too. I think he's a nice safe play. There are no over-under on this game yet, but there is a line and majorly favored, like -220. So I think a nice safe play there, but without the upside of a guy like Taijuan Walker. But I have no problem playing Hendricks. He's only 9.0 on DK and 8.5 on FanDuel. But no problem using him on either site. There's one guy a little bit more of a risk, definitely more of the upside play, and only on FanDuel. Danny Salazar against Houston. Houston has been really cold. They do like to strike out a lot. Danny Salazar strikes out a lot of people. Having a pretty good year. Just a great game in his last start. 11.9 on DK just rules him out of cash game consideration, but I do think makes him a very nice tournament play. But only 9.1 on FanDuel. Right there with Taijuan Walker. I think that the price makes him worthy of cash consideration, but he is riskier than a Mad Bum or a Kyle Hendricks in this situation. Full disclosure, I really like Danny Salazar, so keep that in mind in weighing my recommendation. Let's see what we got for batters today. There is a Coors Field game on the early slate, and there weren't that many runs scored, at least for a while, in the Coors game last night. The Rockies still did not do terribly much. They should really trade for Ruby De La Rosa, who had a great game, much to my despisal, because he just pitches gems in Coors Field, unlike everybody else in the world. So maybe they should trade to acquire him. Anyway, I like the chances of things being high scoring in Coors Field a bit more today. It is supposed to be kind of cold there, which is not great for hitting. But all the same, it's Coors, and the pitchers we got are Bettis, which is nothing frightening, pitching for Colorado, and who is the Arizona pitcher? Oh yeah, Robbie Ray. So I like the righties on Colorado more, not surprisingly, and lefties on Arizona. So on that note, Chris Herman will hopefully be in the lineup again today for Arizona, going up against a righty pitcher. He's really only in, well, I mean, he's kind of in play on both sides, but I prefer him on DK, even though he's getting expensive there. 3.8. He's about the same on FanDuel, but with the differences, it just does that. So they're figuring out that he's pretty good and has a lot of upside there, and it's a Coors game. DK pricing is getting tighter as the season goes on, and I enjoy it. I like it. Another decent option is Brian Holiday if he gets the start over Bobby Wilson. Matt Latos is a good pitcher to target, and Holiday is a nice punt at just min salary 2K on DK. He's a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, 2.1, but no big deal with it there. If it is Bobby Wilson, for some reason he's all the way up to 4,200 on DK, so he's not in play for me. But he is cheap on FanDuel, so you could look at him there. Another guy that I like on FanDuel specifically is Yan Gomez, and he gets Doug Fister. He's 3.1 on DK. It's really kind of pricey, but he's only 2.4 on FanDuel. Nice value there. Good guy to get in your lineup. Fister is another pitcher that's good to target these days. And that's really it for catcher. I love Herman. I like punting catcher, so Holiday works, and Gomez for FanDuel. At first base, start with a guy that I don't really love too much as a player, but Mark Reynolds. When you're playing in Coors Field, a lot of things happen, and he's actually got a good record against Robbie Ray as well. Only 4K on DK, 3.7 on FanDuel, so roughly equivalent pricing. He hits with some power. He's in Coors Field. Robbie Ray is not the best pitcher, so he's definitely in play. On DK, going back to this Texas White Sox game, we got Mitch Moreland, 3.9 on DK. He's not a first baseman on FanDuel, so I'll cover that in the outfield section. Nice safe play, like I said, targeting Latos, good idea. But I really like Chris Davis, especially on FanDuel, where he's only 3.8. He's 4.4 on DK, so he's a little bit more expensive there, but he goes up against Phil Hughes, who is just another one of my favorite pitchers to target, and Chris Davis has a pretty good record against Phil Hughes, if I'm recalling correctly, but regardless of whether he does or not, 3.8 on FanDuel is an amazing price for him against a bad pitcher. You do want to watch out though. In the very early look at the forecast, I believe that game has the most weather concern. So keep an eye on that. Come by the Slurv chat and get some updates on the weather before you finalize your lineups. Sad news: they moved John Segura to second base at on FanDuel. He was at shortstop before. Like him much better there, but he's still in play today on FanDuel. His price is a bit out of decent cash consideration range on DK, but he's only 3.9 on FanDuel. Not a bad way to get some Coors Field exposure in there. Also, like guys taking on Doug Fister, losing my place here, like Kipnis. So he is also a bargain on FanDuel at 3.2, but he's not bad on DK at 4K even. I like him. I like him to have a good game against Pfister. Going back to this Texas White Sox game, it's another expected to be high-scoring affair. Odor is just on a roll lately. I think I moved him down to the second spot in the order last game, but no big deal there. Matt Latos, good guy to take on. Odor's an expensive play. He's a guy that if you're playing him, you're paying up at second base for him. He is 4.7 on DK and 4.3 on FanDuel, roughly equivalent pricing, like him equally on both sites, which is not true of Brett Lowry. He's going up against Cole Hamels, which is maybe not the bestest of matchups, but it's really not the worst either. He grades out pretty well on the day. Only 3.1 on FanDuel, 3.9 on DK, kind of takes him out of my consideration. I'd rather play 100 more and get Kipnis, but he's worth a look on FanDuel if you really want to save some money at second base. Let's start off back at that Texas game for third base with Todd Frazier. Guy has been hitting the ball really well lately. Again, Cole Hamels is a good pitcher, but I think he's not the same pitcher that he was last season. At least he hasn't shown that so far. So I don't think he's something we need to worry about in targeting. But there's also a couple good ways to get Coors Field exposure at the third base spot. On DK, I like Brandon Drury, assuming he's in the lineup. He is 3.6 there. He's more expensive on FanDuel, where I prefer Jake Lamb, assuming he's in the lineup, who's 3.7 there. It's kind of the same thing that's been going on, with one of them priced well on FanDuel, one of them priced well on DK. I don't know what they're doing sometimes, but hey. And then, like I said, keep an eye on the weather in this game. But Manny Machado, man, that guy is crushing the ball. He is just really, really good at baseball. And he is only 4.3 on FanDuel. If you're playing him on DraftKings, put him in the shortstop spot. We will talk about that in just a moment. But just, man, he's doing awesome. And Phil Hughes is not a good pitcher. And I think there's a great opportunity for him if this game plays. If you do play Machado on DK, you're definitely going to be spending up at shortstop, as he's 5K even, so he's very expensive, but pretty worth it if that's the spot that you choose to pay up at today. Then again, there's also some other good considerations there for once in that price range. Trevor Story going up against Robbie Ray, a left-hander. You might be aware he's been crushing left-handers all season. So that's definitely an intriguing thing. He is also 5K on DK, 4.6 on FanDuel. And the next play is kind of a BVP recommendation. Tulowitzki has a pretty good record against Mad Bum across his career through a lot of at bats, and he's a guy who really likes to take on the tough pitchers. He's a guy that likes to challenge himself and have these sort of rivalries with the top pitchers. And he kind of came out of his slump last night in a pretty big way with a homer and some other hits. If you can hear that, I'm sorry. They're doing some repairs outside the building. And he's still dirt cheap. 2.9 on DK and 2.8 on FanDuel. So if you're paying down at shortstop, I think he is a great way to go about it. Just to really, I think he's like over 300. Over 300 versus Mad Bum in his career. I think that the low salary mitigates the risk that comes with it. So if you're paying up, you got Story and Machado, and if you're paying down at shortstop, I like Tulowitzki. We've got a lefty facing the Rockies in Coors Field, which means it is time for one of my favorite plays in the outfield. Ryan Rayburn, the lefty slayer, He's a platoon player, which tends to keep his salary down. I love playing Ryan Rayburn because when he does get in the lineup, it's usually against a lefty who he just kills. He's only 3.6 on DK, 3.0 on FanDuel. A little bit pricier on DK, but I don't even mind. I love him on both sides today. Same game, other side, other team. We got David Peralta. I think he is just very underpriced. He's been a little banged up, so make sure he's in the lineup. 4.1 on DK, 4.0 on FanDuel. A little bit friendlier price on DK, but same deal as Ryan Rayburn. I don't mind at all. I like him on both sites. And this next guy, I could just record my segment on him and just insert it every day until his price comes up. Nomar Mazara is an excellent player. He should not be priced in the low threes. He's 3.4 on DK, 3.1 on FanDuel, especially not when he's going up against Matt Latos. I just think he's a really good player, and he's way too cheap. And it's a great matchup against a mediocre at best pitcher. And then on FanDuel, I told you I'd bring up Mitch Moreland because he's an outfielder here as opposed to first base on DK. 3.3, kind of same situation as Mazara, although I'd probably just go Mazara in that situation. But if you wanted to stack up Texas, I don't mind that at all either. And then also just a FanDuel exclusive play based on salary. Adam Jones, only 2.3 on FanDuel. Just ridiculously cheaper. I think he's 3.6 or something on DK. He is starting to come out of his slump. He had a home run last night. If this game plays, hopefully he can keep that going against Phil Hughes. That's usually a good cure for pitchers for batters slumps. Facing Phil Hughes. So that kind of rounds out my my cash plays for the early slate today. Check back a little bit later to get the late slate guys. Don't play cash all day. It's just a bad idea because you never know too much about lineups. There's always a chance that even a star player is getting a day off. And to find out all this stuff, come on by the Slurv chat, slurv.com. It's free to sign up, free to come hang out with us and chat and, just get some ideas and some help and some just chat about baseball and DFS and fun stuff. It's great. We have a good time. Slurv.com. I am Steve. You will find me there in the Slurv chat. Come on back later for the late slate video. Good luck with the early slate.